Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is Bava Basra, daf Kuf Samach Zion 167. We're at the top of Kuf Samach Zion, and we are continuing to deal with the laws of documents and specific and contracts. And we are going to today, we're going to start with some advice that Abaye gives. And then we're going to have a number of situations before we get to the Mishnah. So let's just dive right in. There's not too much in the way of background that you'll need for today's daf. So let's dive right in. So Amar Abaye, third line on Kuf Zamach Zayin Amud Aleph. Amar Abaye, Haiman Duboy Lumachve Chasimus Yadeh Bevei Dina. If you want to show your signature to a court, and we'll go through Rashbam and he'll tell us exactly what the situation is. Lo lachve besov Megilta. Don't do it at the end of a scroll. Meaning, we'll understand it the way we're going to understand it at the end here. Meaning, don't put your signature at the bottom of the document. Heck, we spent the last few days talking about all the bad things that could happen if even when your signature was at the bottom of a document when it was a legitimate document. If you put it at the bottom of a document that has nothing on it, boy, can people do something bad. Dilma mashkach la'achar, because maybe somebody's going to find it because of demasik bezuze, and then they're going to say that the person at the bottom owes him money. Utznan, and we learned hotzi alav ksav yado shu chayev lo, that you are that if somebody takes out a writing of the other person that says that the other person is obligated to you, so then gova minachasim b'nei chorin. You can't take from real property. Real property requires a formal star, a formal document with the signatures of others on it, but just the signature of this one person is sufficient. And we'll see that we say ksav yado doesn't, although it literally means the handwriting, meaning that maybe even if the person wrote just the text of the document, in the end, we'll see in Rashbam that it means it means his signature. And let's take a look now at that Rashbam. So third line in the Rashbam. Amar Abaye, lo lechve inish chasimas yadei chulu. The person shouldn't this is a slight rewording of it, but you shouldn't show your signature. And then we continue to say at the end of a document. So Adam should tzarich. So what's the situation? Adam should tzarich lichto chasimas yado al klaf ulahashlik lebeistin. If somebody needs to send their signature write their signature on a parchment and send it to Beit Din, kiru Beit Din chatimato, so that the Beit Din can recognize his signature. So what's the situation? It was the situation that we saw way back in Ketubot. Certainly, if you don't remember, I don't blame you because it was a long time ago. But in that chapter, Daf Kaf Aleph. So it was the first Daf Kaf Aleph, Amud Aleph in Ketubot. Kigon Ruvain and Shimon. You have these Ruvain and Shimon. Shahayu Chatumim b'shtar umeit. They had signed a document and then they died. Umeit Shimon, excuse me, and then Shimon died. Ve'ein mish yakir chasimas Shimon ela Ruvain. And the only person who recognizes Shimon's signature is Ruvain ve'echa min hashuk, and one guy from the marketplace. Meaning, as a reminder, if you have a document and we have signed on it, if I have a document that says that Shlomo owes me $1,000 and Stan and Ken have signed on that document, then if they're not around, I can get two witnesses that recognize Stan's signature. I can get two witnesses that recognize Ken's signature, and that is sufficient for me to now enforce the document. But what if instead of neither Stan nor Ken being around, Stan happens to be around and he recognizes Ken's signature. Well, if Stan recognizes his own, oh, well, let me back up and say one other thing. If in fact Stan and Ken are around and they recognize their own signatures, well, then the entire document is absolutely fine because it's as if those two guys were the witnesses that are right in front of us. But what if Stan recognizes his own signature and is one of the two witnesses that recognizes Ken's signature? That's going to be a problem because, in the end, that would mean that effectively the contract is being more than 50% enforced as a result of Stan's presence. And we don't allow that. So, in that situation, Hussam, Amrina and Hussam, because we said in that case, continuing on in the Rashbam, of a case where, again, Reuven and Shimon signed the document. Unfortunately, Shimon died. And now Reuven can recognize it, but the problem is that he's also planning to recognize his own signature. So sheyichtov Ruvain ksav yado v'yashlich lo beis din. That we said that the way to handle this is to have Ruvain write down his signature and give it to the beis din. And now they'll see him write his signature. They'll see that the signature is identical to the signature on the document. Based in Mekaimen Chasimus Yidei Ruvain. And so Hakasu Bishtar Miksav Yado. And so the Beis Din will affirm and confirm that the signature on the document is in fact Ruvain's based on the document that he was sent to him, Shehishlich Beis Din, that was sent to him in Beis Din. Ve'ein zarach Ruvain lehe'id al ksav yado. And as a result, Ruvain won't have to testify on his own hand. Shebishtar Zek Savyadi, that he won't need to say that this, quote unquote, this is my handwriting. Ubayin Ruvain ve'echa min ashuk. And now that Ruvain doesn't have to testify about his own handwriting, now Ruvain and somebody else in the marketplace could testify umeidin al chasim Shimon. They could testify about Shimon's handwriting. V'amar Abaye. So what is Abaye telling us about in this situation? Kishayachtom Ruvain lahashel beis din. When Ruvain writes his signature to send it to beis din, lo yachtom besof haklaf. He should be very careful not to sign at the bottom of a document. Ela betchilaso, he should sign at the top of the page. Shelo yehei chalak milamala, so that there's nothing blank above it. Shema yimtsaenu adam ra, and because if maybe somebody bad will find it, the yichto b'chalak shalamala mechatimato, and he'll write down on the document above the signature, aniach atom, I the signer of this document, lavisi miploni, I borrowed from Ploni, kach v'kach mamon, this amount of money. And so as a result, if I'm the evil person that wrote that above one of your signatures, now I'm going to be able to collect from you this money. Utnan hotzi alav ksav yado, and the point is that when we cite this Mishnah, this is a Mishnah that we'll learn in about a week on Kuf Ayin Hey Amud Bet, that says that if you take out a document that's written by somebody, then you can collect. Now, when it says written by somebody, v'hainu chasimas yado, we're continuing on in the Rashbam. The meaning of ksav yado does not mean that the handwriting is of that what's crucial is the handwriting. The ksav yado is just a shorthand way of saying chasimas yado, that it's really the signature of his hand. Kiditnan, and we actually have this somewhere else where we say, this is in Gittin, ksav sofer ve'ed kasher, that if you have a get that is written by the handwrite that has the handwriting of the sofer and one witness, that's kosher. And va'amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, and Rabbi Yirmiyah clarifies that it doesn't mean that the sofer just recognizes his handwriting of the get, but rather chasam sofer shaninu. We're talking about where the sofer himself has signed the document, and so that's what we mean by ksav yado or ksav sofer. We mean the chsam sofer. We mean the signature of the sofer. So that's the basic point. Okay, so now we understand the situation and we understand why one should never do that. And effectively, this is like signing on a blank check, right? Because the content of the rest of the check, you're allowing somebody else to fill in above. And if you sign a check, you need to be very, very careful about that check. And of course, that's why we also have to be very careful about people washing checks, because then it looks like you signed a blank check. All right. In any event,
Well,
uh,
what's the relationship? I don't understand. The Rashbam goes through this whole story. What is the relationship between ensuring that the person who signs this recognizes his own signature and doesn't sign at the bottom, signs at the top, and the story that there were two people and he can't testify, he can only testify on his own, but not the second one. I'm waiting to hear about what does he do? What do we do with
okay, so
second
let me
second
clarify, because
signature? The second
that
signature.
was the main point of this Rashbam, and the main point of this Rashbam is the following. The point is when would you even ever have the need to send to a Beit Din your signature? And the answer to that question is the situation where you had two people sign on the document. One of them unfortunately passed away or is nowhere to be found. And the only person who can confirm, or one of the only two people that can confirm the deceased witness's handwriting, is the other witness. And so, as a result, since that other witness is not allowed to both confirm his own handwriting and the other person's handwriting, and we don't have anyone else who can confirm the live witness's handwriting, what do we have the live witness do? We have the live witness write his signature to Beit Din, and Beit Din itself has the ability to review his signature on this new piece of paper that we saw him sign and the original document. And now that live witness no longer needs to testify about his own signature. He can only testify about the other person's, the deceased witness's signature. And that's how we can now confirm that this is a valid document, even though one of the witnesses died, and there is only one person in the entire universe who recognizes the signature other than our live witness. And that wouldn't be enough. We need two witnesses. And so now this allows us to have two witnesses and to confirm the signature of the live witness, because we don't have anyone in the world who can recognize his signature. And now, notwithstanding the fact that the only two people in the entire universe who recognize any of these signatures on this document, one being the live witness and one being somebody in the marketplace, despite the fact that that's all we've got, and ordinarily that would not be enough, we found a manner in which we can confirm this document. And so as a result, that's the situation where someone would need to send their signature to court. And so now that we have this situation, now we're telling you, when you send the signature to court, Abaye says, be careful, be very careful. Do not write your signature anywhere below the top line of the document, because we are concerned that somebody else will find that scroll and write something on it. And now you will be liable to them because they wrote above your signature. And even though that signature alone doesn't make the document like a written document that allows the holder of the document to collect not only from the property that you currently have in your hand, but even from something that you sold, that you sold after the date of the document. So even though this one signature document, this document that only has your signature on it, Ken, is not good enough to allow me to collect from property that you sold last week to Stan, it is enough to allow me to collect from anything you currently hold. And so I would be able to collect from anything you currently hold. And so as a result, Abaye says, be very careful. If in that situation you need to send your signature to court, don't sign at the bottom of the document. Sign at the very top of the document. Okay, hopefully that now clarifies. So, Hahu Bazvina. So now we're going to deal with three stories where fraud was detected and thankfully prevented. There was a toll collector, and the presumption is he was a Jewish toll collector. De Asa Lekame de Abaye, who came in front of Abaye. Amarle, and he said to Abaye, listen, Nechze limar chasimas yadei. Please show me your signature. V'chi asu rabbanan, and this way, when you certify that somebody is a rabbi, machvuli, they'll show me that signed parchment, the signed smicha document, umavarna lahu below miksa, and I'll let them pass without any toll. Look how righteous I am. So Achve le beresh megilta. So Abaye began writing his signature at the very top of the scroll, because of course Abaye was the one who just told us this. Hava kanagid bay, and the tax collector was pulling on the document while Abaye was about to sign, so trying to get him to sign lower down. Amar le, Abaye said, Kvar kadamuch rabbanan, the rabbis have already figured you out. Meaning, you don't need to worry about this. I know the trick. I know the trick of trying to get somebody to sign on a blank document so that you can force them to owe you money. So that's story number one. So now we're up to Amar Abaye. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lines down on Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. And we're dealing with stories that highlight that you should never sign anything, not sign a blank document, a blank document anywhere other than the very, very top line, because we're worried that somebody will write something above it. So Amar Abaye, here's another thing to be worried about in connection with fraud. Mitlas va'ad eser, from the numbers 3 to 10, then lo lichto besof shita. Don't write those numbers at the end of a line, because Dilma Messiah v'kasav, because maybe somebody will add something to the end of the line, namely a yud and a nun, and now all of a sudden Tlas becomes Tlasin, Eser becomes Esrin, and so as a result, now it will become a forged number, and people will be able to turn it into a larger number. Now, if in fact it turns out that the scribe did have to write, and the one of these words came out at the end of the line, what should you do? Nahadri ledibure train tulasa zimne. He should make sure to write the words, whatever word it was, at least 2 or 3 times. That way, now we'll have it in the middle of the line. And so as a result, now it'll be also in the middle of the line, and now it will be clear if there was any kind of tampering with the document. So now let's hear of a case where there was apparently tampering. Hahuda ahava ksiv be tilsa bifardesa. There was a person who said that he wanted that he was supposed to get a third of an orchard, and that this was a sale document that was a third of an orchard. And azal machake legabe debate vikare, and he vishave ufardesa. And he took out the gag of the bet, the kare, and the foot of the bet, the shabe b'fardesa. And so now, when you take away the bottom and the top of a vet, what you're left with is a vav. And so as a result, it looked like it said and a fardesa. So basically, it was, I'm selling you a third of something and an orchard. So Asala Kame de Abaye, the document came in front of Abaye. Amarle, my taima, Reviach le Alma Lahai Vav. Why is there so much space for this Vav? Kafte. So he bound the guy up and effectively forced him to admit Va'odei. And the person admitted what he had done. And so as a result, the fraud was prevented. Another situation. Now we're going to get two more situations of these kind of preventions of fraud. So I think I said three cases earlier. We ended up having four cases. The first case was about specifically writing your signature at the top of the document. And now we have three other fraud type cases of trying to adjust the lettering in a document. Hahuda havaksabe minas Ruvain v'Shimon achei, that this is the that the portion of land of is going to from Ruvain and Shimon, who are brothers, is being sold to somebody else. Habalahu acha dishmei ache, and they had a brother whose name was Ache, and so the buyer wanted azov v'kasav vav. So he wrote. He wanted to buy not only the land of Reuven and Shimon, but he wanted to buy the land of the third brother, Achi, as well. And so he wrote a vav in front of the word Achi. And so Ache. And so as a result, it said V'Ache, V'Shavye V'Achai. And so as it turns out, now it looks like he's trying that the person who's buying is buying land that belonged to all three brothers. So Asala Kameh da Abaye. So it came in front of Abaye. Amrle, Abaye pointed out, my time adachik le alma lahai vav kulihai. Why is there so little space for this vav? Kafte. He bound the guy up. The Odeh, and of course the guy confessed. So Hahushtara, third case. Dahavachasim ale Rava v'Rav Acha bar Ada. So Rava and Rav Acha bar Ada had signed a document. Asalakame de Rava, it came in front of Rava. Amar le, Rava said, Din chasimus yida didihi. Yeah, this really looks like my signature. Miu kame de Rav Acha bar Ada lo chasimus lima olam. But I've never signed before Rav Acha bar Ada. Meaning, Rav Acha bar Ada was the more important rabbi. I would have let him sign first. So Kafte, so as a result, Rava also basically binds the guy up and asks and tries to force him to confess. The Odeh, and the guy confessed that he in fact had made up the signatures. So Amrale Bishlama Di I understand how you could forge my signature because I don't have any special kind of signature. Ella Durav Achabar Ada. How did you sign Rav Acha bar Ada's name? Derasis Yade. He has a tremor. So Heichi Avad. How did you manage that? So Amar. So two possible answers. Anchi Yadai Amitra. I was put my hand on a rope, meaning a rope bridge, and Amrila, and then I signed. Amrila, and some people say Kam Azarnuka. I stood on a bottle. So, of course, if you're balancing on a bottle, you're not likely to sign as stable in as stable a manner. And so that was how I was able to forge his signature. But the bottom line is that the court needs to evaluate the document and identify whether anything looks suspicious. And if anything looks suspicious, they need to do a full analysis before they enforce anything. Okay. So that is the laws of forgery. And now the question is, now we're going to go back in time to the writing of this document. And who can we write a document for? That's what our Mishnah, next Mishnah analyzes. So let's take a look. Now again, we're on the Mishnah on the bottom of Kuf Saf Samach Zayin on Amud Aleph. Kosin get leish. If somebody has been asked to write a get for a man, he can do so even if his wife isn't there. Let's take a look at the Rashbam. 1, 2, 3, 5 lines up from the very bottom. Actually, it's the second to last of the medium wide lines. Kosin get leish. Kosvin v'chosmin lo. We can have it written and we can have it signed for the husband. V'hu yigaresh bo et ishto k'sheyirtza, and then he can divorce his wife when he wants. Aval pisha ein ishto imo, even though the wife isn't there. V'shasha nosnin lo haget, when he gives her the get. Kasav v'chasum, when it's already been written and signed. Daha lo be'inan daita, because we don't, according to the Bible, according to the Torah, we don't need her knowledge. We only impose that in the Gaonic period. Sha'arehi mitgareshet bal karcha, because she can be divorced against her will. Okay, so that's case number one. The hashover leisha, we will also write a receipt for the wife, meaning there's a receipt. Let's take a look. Shover leisha, aval pi she'ein balaima, even though the husband isn't with her. Now let's just remind ourselves. It doesn't actually tell us what this document does. Um, in the Rashbam. So let's deal with it outside, which is this document tells us that a husband, if he's holding it, has paid off the ketubah obligation to his wife. So now that we know that, this document, if anything happens to it, is a obligation on her, meaning it's a loss for her if she were to give it too soon to her husband. For the husband, it's a good thing. And we can allow, if the woman tells us that her husband has already paid it, we can allow somebody to be zoche for this in this document on behalf of the husband. So she has to be very careful with it. Shelo yavo liyad bala, so it doesn't come into her husband's hands kesef ktubata, until she receives the money of her ketubah. So as a result, he's going to insist on the shover, or he's going to insist on getting back the ketubah document. But but he needs to get one of those things back.
Are we
Okay.
allowing her to write it in advance? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, yes, we're allowing
Why?
her to,
Why?
because if we want to make sure that she gets paid, and if in fact the husband comes by and says, "Here, I'm ready to pay you, and but you need to give me a receipt," and she doesn't have the receipt, then he may say to her, "Okay, I'll come by another time." And who knows when he may come by? He may not be able to come by. So when he's ready to pay, we want to make sure she is able to give him the receipt.
If she has
Okay.
the receipt, she could hold the receipt for years. We
Yeah,
create the
she can hold the
receipt.
receipt until he pays her.
So
But
when do we, at the time of the wedding, do we make this receipt?
no, only if we think that they're going to get divorced. Meaning this is a situation where the man has already either has given the get, right? So the point is the get has been given, but now he hasn't yet paid her ketubah. So he owes her the ketubah, but he's waiting until he gets a receipt in order to be able to pay it. So we want to facilitate that. So as a result, we allow her to have it written so that as soon as he gives her the money, she can give him the receipt. Okay. Now, uvilvad, but all of this, shiehei makiran, we have to recognize them. Now, what exactly do we mean by recognize them? That's going to be the first question that the Gemara is going to ask. So that's what the Rashbam tells us, and so we'll hold off on exactly what that means. V'habal notein slachar, and in each case, whether it's a get or a receipt, the husband is obligated to pay that fee to the sofer. Okay, as we turn to Kuf Samach Zayin Amabet, Kozvin Star Lulova. We're also willing to write a document for a borrower that says that he borrowed money from a particular lender. Afal Pisha Ain Malva Imo, even though the lender isn't with him. As Rashbam says, take a look, top Rashbam, Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Bet, excuse me, Kosvin Shtar Lulova, Liot Mizuman Biyado, Latate Lamalva, Kishayalva Lomos, that we want him to have the document ready to give to the lender as soon as the lender gives him the money. Afal Pisha Ain Malva Imo, even though the lender isn't with him at this moment. Okay, the ain kotvim l'malva, but we won't write for the lender because we don't want to facilitate fraud. And so as a result, we're not going to let the lender just have a document that says somebody else owes him money. Ajie lova imo. The borrower needs to be there also. The halova no sein schar. And the love, the borrower, is the one who pays the sofer in this situation. And the Gemara is going to ask, as Rashbam says, second line, B'Gemara Parach Pshita. Isn't it obvious that the lova is the one who pays? The halova no sein schar, that the lova pays the money. Sharei kol hanala shalo. The borrower is the one who gets all the benefit. He's the one who gets the money. He's the one who has the advantages. If God forbid he can't pay, so it's all for him, his benefit. Of course, he should be the one who pays. So we'll see that in the Gemara. Kosvin shtar lamocher. What about a sale document? So a sale document will write it for the seller, afal pisha ein lo even though the buyer isn't with him. Again, because we want the seller to be able to sell the item to the buyer, sell the property to the buyer, and he wants it to be able to transfer that sale document immediately. The aim kosvin lokeh. But again, we won't do it for a buyer until the seller is with him. And again, the buyer is the one who has to pay for that because, again, the buyer is the one who benefits. Ein kosvin shtare erisinu nesuin. We don't write documents of the two stages of marriage, the kedushin and the nesuin. Ela midashnehen. You need the involvement of both parties. Chasan no sein schar, and the groom's the one who pays the fee. So ein kosvin shtare erisin mefarish be'elu megalchin. So sorry, third line in the Rashbam. Sorry, I didn't say that. We explain in Moed Katan shtare pesikta k'de Rav Gidol kama atanoten lebencha kach v'kach, etc. That the point is that this document is an agreement among the parents about how much they're each going to contribute to the success of this new family that is being formed when the couple marries. And then the line down from that, the Nisuin, the document of the Nisuin, and that's basically what we refer to as Tanaim today, is that document. Now, of course, Tanaim today is signed on the day of the marriage, so for all intents and purposes, it's not really a very necessary or formal document. But in those days, when they had long engagements and it was required, you were investing effectively in the new couple, it was an important document to show the commitment of the two families to the new couple. And Nisuin, according to the Rashbam, is ketubah. That's referring to the ketubah. Okay.
Well, what is the sense of pasikta? Shtari pasikta.
It's it's a I believe that that's just the name. I'm not 100% sure, but the bottom line is that, again, it's a I think I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to guess. Okay. Ein kosvin. Sorry that I don't have that. Ein kosvin star. Again, I wasn't really supposed to cover today. Ein kosvin star arisos the kablanos. Now, what about other kinds of lease type of situations or sharecropping situations? So if we have a sharecropping and a risa situation, or a kablanut, a tenant farming situation, we will only write those documents elamidash nehen. You need both parties because essentially both parties are making commitments. The hamakabel, the one who receives it, meaning the tenant, no sein schar. He's the one who pays the fee because he's the one who needs to have well, actually both of them probably need to have a copy of the document. But okay, ein kosin shtare verurin. We don't write a shtar berurin, and the Rashbam says that the Gemara is going to tell us what that is, so we'll hold off on that. B'chol masa beistin, or any judgment of a court, elamadash nehan. Again, we require them both to be involved, both parties to be involved. Ushneim notin schar, and the poor parties pay the fee jointly. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel goes a little bit further. Lishneihen kosvin shnayim, that we actually write for two documents for the two people. Vizela atzmo, vizela atzmo, so that each one has their own copy. Okay, so we said at the beginning that we were going to ask the question about what does it mean when the Mishnah says that we have to recognize them. So my ubilvad sheyehe makiran. What does it mean so long as we recognize them? So Rav Yehuda, Rav. Rav says ubilvad sheyehe makir shem ha'ish baget the shem ha'isha bashober. You need to recognize the person who is coming in front of you. Meaning, if we only need the man for the get and we only need the woman for the receipt. So as a result, that's the only person that we need to recognize. So Yosef Rav Safra Rav Acha Bar Huna Rav Huna Bar Chinana. So we had a whole bunch of people. Rav Safra, Rav Acha, and Rav Huna were all sitting together. V'Yosef Abaye Gabayu, and Abaye was sitting near them. V'Yosef Kimi Boy Lahu, and they were wondering. Shem Ha'ish beget Ain, B'Shem Ha'isha Lo, Shem Ha'isha B'Shover Ain, Shem Ha'ish Lo. I don't understand this statement of Rav. It seems confusing because is the man the only name in the get? And is the woman not there? And is the woman the only name in the receipt? And is the man not there? V'leichush, don't we need to be concerned? Dilma ksav gita, maybe he's going to write a get. V'azul umam tele li'itse deheach, and he'll go and bring it to the wife of another person who has the same name as him. V'zimnin asla kasfa Isha Shover, and maybe a woman will write a receipt, V'yava legavra delavdila, and he'll give it to a man who is not her husband, but who's married to a woman who had the same name as her. And so as a result, don't we need to be worried about this kind of fraud? And in fact, Abaye says, yes, he's the one who's been worried about fraud all along. Amr lahu Abaye, Hachi Amarav. Here's what Rav said. Rav really didn't say that it was just the man, but rather Shem Ha'ish beget v'hu adin l'Shem Ha'isha. That we need to recognize the man and we need to recognize the name of the woman. And Shem Ha'isha b'shover v'hu adin l'Shem Ha'ish. And we need to recognize, just as we need to recognize the woman's name in the receipt, we need to recognize the man's name. Meaning, we need to know both parties to the couple, and know the fact that they were married and make sure that everybody's name is correct. Yosef ben Shimon hadarim be'ir achat. Well, don't we need to worry about two men who are named Yosef ben Shimon that live in the same place and have wives with the same names? Dilma kasev gita. Maybe one of them is going to write a get. And he'll go and give it to the other one's wife. Amar lahu Rav Acha Bar Huna. So Rav Acha Bar Huna said to everybody else, Hachi Amar Rav. Here's what Rav said: Shnei Yosef ben Shimon hadarim be'ir achat ein magarshin shnishosein elazeh b'fnei. That we will only allow if we know that there are two people with identical names and the identical names of their wives. We will only allow them to get divorced, one in the presence of the other. Now, I did not have a chance to take a look and see whether, in fact, this is the halacha, but it certainly seems like that's the case. But do we actually do that in practice? That I don't know. All right, v'leichosh. Well, 1 second. So, all right, you got covered the situation where they're two in the same town. V'leichosh doma azul lamasa achrisa. Maybe the person. And they'll travel to another town. Umachzik le l'shmei b'Yosef ben Shimon, and then the man's going to say that his name is really Yosef ben Shimon. V'ksiv gita, and then he'll write the get there. Umamte le leitze deheach, and then he's going to bring it back, meaning the place where they live is in the get. But maybe they went on a vacation and the vacation went so poorly that they decided to get divorced. And when they went on vacation, the husband decided to fake his name, and the wife, for whatever reason, or maybe the husband went on his own and fake his name. And as a result, everybody thought his name was Yosef ben Shimon, when in fact his name was something else. And now he'll go back to the other city, and there's only one Yosef ben Shimon there, and now he's going to divorce Yosef ben Shimon's wife, when it really was not, when Yosef ben Shimon doesn't want to divorce his wife, and he's going to thereby, create a situation that's going to be terrible. So again, don't we need to worry about that? So Amar Lahu Rav Huna Bar Chinina, Rav Huna Bar Chinina says no. Hachi Amar Rav, Kol Shahuchsach Shmo Be'ir Shloshim Yom Ein Choshesh Lo. We're not worried that somebody's going to establish. First of all, it takes 30 days to get your name established. And for that amount of time, we're not concerned that people are going to do that. Below it chazak mai. What happens if he didn't establish his name for 30 days? Is there a way that we can allow him to write the get more quickly, again, if he's not in his own town? Hamar Abaye says, here's what you should do. Dekarole v'ane. Go call him in a surprise manner by his his new name, and see if he answers. Meaning, if he answers immediately, so then probably that means that that's his real name. But if he takes his time and answers, and he forgot essentially that was his name, then that would show that it's not his name. And so that may be a way that we could allow the person to get divorced sooner. So Rav Zvid says, no, that's not good enough, because Rama'a Biramuse Zahir. When you're trying to trick a person about the item in which they are trying to trick you, they're going to be very careful. And so as a result, that won't work. And so as a result, the only way that we will write a get for somebody who is new in town is if in fact they've been here for 30 days, so we can establish that the name that they're using is the real name. Okay. And
We
so
were
with
talking
that,
about, weren't we talking about someone who went on vacation to another town? He certainly wasn't there for 30 days, right?
no, that's exactly my point. We began with a situation where it wasn't clear how long he was there. Then we said, well, then don't we need to worry that maybe he'll come with a fake name? And then we said, oh, so that's why we need to make sure that he's there for 30 days. So if he went on vacation, it needs to be a 30-day vacation if he wants to get a divorce in not his hometown. And so as a result, that's the bottom line. And then we said, is there any way that he can get a divorce more quickly out of his hometown? And the answer is no in the end, because as Rizvid said, a tricker knows his tricks. And so as a result, we're going to be worried that actually there isn't a way to test him to confirm that he in fact is the person he says he is. The only way that we can do that is effectively by giving ourselves 30 days of time to figure it all out. So we're going to stop there. Sorry I didn't do as much Rashbam and Tosus as usual, but this was a last minute thing, and you can let me know if you prefer this duration and with the less Rashbam and Tosos, because I'm happy to do that also. So have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll see you on Wednesday, Amir Hashem. I believe that Dove will be back tomorrow.
Is this just one thing clarification here? Is this fellow in this case we had, did he want to create this divorce in the town that he was visiting, or come back and create the divorce, cause the divorce in his original town, and come back with the fake name or whatever?
It seems to me that he was trying to come back to his original town with the divorce document, because um, uh, if he's living in the new town, well, then there isn't any concern about him going back to his original town, because the document would say that he's giving the get in the new town, or that he's from the new town. And so as a result, it wouldn't be useful back in the old town. The whole point is that we don't just say the person's name, but we say where he's from in the document. So
Right.
if in fact the new town would become where he's from, well, then it wouldn't be useful, right? The forgery or the fraud that we're worried about is him taking the document back to his old town and divorcing somebody else with the new name that he used, right? The point is that let's
But
get
who did he
into
want to divorce? He wanted
what
divorce. Who did he want? Didn't he want? He wanted to
he
divorce his
has.
own
He has
wife.
a thing. he has a thing for Shmuel's wife. And so as a
Oh,
result, he decides, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to a different town. I'm gonna tell people I'm originally from my original town, but my name is Shmuel. And so as a result, I'm gonna go and then I'll get the divorce document for Shmuel's wife.
right.
I'll go and give her the document, say that I'm Shmuel's agent. She'll think that she's divorced. Everything will be wonderful because she probably, I know that she'll fall in love with me. And so as a result, and now everything's wonderful. And he's got this whole affair set up to be quote unquote legitimate. So
But he
that's
may
the
still
concern.
be right, but he may still be married to his wife.
Yeah, but at the time of the Gemara, you could be married to more than
Well,
one.
she might not, his wife might not be too happy about this.
That may be, but in those days, what was the wife supposed to do? She can't. She had limited ability to force a divorce. So that again, these are not great situations. But that's the point. Is that we're actually trying to prevent them. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to prevent these bad situations. You're absolutely right that it's not good for her, not good for the second wife, whatever. But the point is that's exactly what we're trying to prevent. We don't want to allow anybody to do that. All right. All
Okay.
right. Looking forward to continuing tomorrow. Now we're going to, continuing our analysis of our Mishnah. Have a great day.